Welcome back, everyone. It's Rolling Credits. I'm Seth, one of your fine hosts. You already know what it is here. We got Gums, Kirby, Pat, and of course, we got the lovely Lauren joining us today. So today we're going to talk about Norse mythology. The new Netflix show, Vikings Valhalla, is coming out later this week. And then also we have in April, The Northmen, which looks freaking fantastic. So we figured, what better way to, get into this spirit and then talk about the badass gods, the different myths and legends of this amazing time period. So, without further ado, let's get into it, guys. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's
do it.
So before we get into the nitty gritty, the serious stuff, I really wanted to bring up, what is your favorite movie or TV show that involves Norse mythology? Is there something that really maybe the audience hasn't seen? So we'll start with you, Gums.
I mean, that's a good question. Vikings is probably my favorite. I think that's my top tier favorite. I just think it's a really good show. It's got enough action. I guess that's mine. That's what I'm going to go with for that one, Seth. Great question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lauren?
I actually don't have a lot of experience with Viking shows, but what I did kind of remember is a Stargate SG-1 episode where they go into Thor's hammer, and there's a full
cool.
There's a full episode of them going into this new world, and they actually meet, well, they don't really meet Thor, they meet a hologram of Thor, but they see Thor's hammer. That's as close as I can get.
That was a nice little twist. I wasn't really expecting that.
They went into his hammer. That's pretty freaking tight.
Well, they didn't go into his hammer. They went into this big labyrinth, and they thought they were going to meet Thor, but it was this hologram, and they're like, what the hell? Where is he?
It was an interesting episode.
It was very interesting. It was so, TV show graphics. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Superman's dad. He goes back to the spaceship in Man of Steel and just talks to Ghost Dad.
I'm okay. Yep, I guess we're doing that.
I got to go with 13th Warrior. I don't remember what year it came out, but it had Antonio Banderas.
I'm looking this up.
So 13th Warrior.
Why is this in my memory bank somewhere?
It's a thing. It is a movie that most definitely flopped, but I loved it. So Antonio Banderas plays this ambassador for his home country, completely against his will because he did some naughty stuff with nobleman's wife and he got kind of booted out. And he's traveling and his caravan is attacked by raiders. And they're saved by a band of Norsemen that just happened to come along. So he's taken back to this settlement with these Norsemen, and they start, communicating and stuff like that. While he's there, he witnesses a Viking funeral for I guess their king had just passed or something like that. And then while he's there, somebody from a neighboring kingdom comes in and asks for aid because their kingdom is being attacked by some unidentified evil thing. And the community wise woman, stated that their mission would be successful if 13 warriors go, but the 13th warrior could not be a Norse, a Norseman. And Antonio Banderas' character is not really given a choice and told he has to go. So once again, against his will, he's thrown into something new, and they go off to defeat this evil entity. I thought it was a fun movie. It was a cool watch. But it was something from, when I was younger. I just really loved the movie. And
can I just say this quick, Curbs?
Yeah.
After looking this up, because it sits in my mind somewhere, it's in the recesses of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up, and it says this. It says, this is a loose adaptation of the tale of Beowulf, combined with Ahmad ibn Fadlan's historical account of the Volga Vikings.
Yep.
What more do you need to know? And then you throw in Antonio Banderas?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it was.
I'm gonna
great.
see it, man. I have never heard of this. This is so. I'm I didn't even expect what you were gonna say there, but it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah, no, it was a great movie.
Yeah, it sits in the recesses of my mind for sure. Yep. I know I've seen this movie.
Yeah. And they I've
seen that movie.
There was also if you haven't seen Pathfinder.
That's great.
Yeah, Pathfinder's Carl Urban is survives a shipwreck. He's a Viking, like Norse child, is adopted by a Native American woman and is brought into their tribe, and then many years later has to help defend the tribe from raiding Norsemen. So that's also an interesting movie.
Let's be honest. This movie was made in 1999. I'm looking it up. Most of the like
Golden
action
Age.
films from 1990s are cheesy as hell.
Yes,
but they're great.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're amazing.
Corny.
Yeah,
Like you know what we're getting into when we go to watch this film. So like I'm
Yep.
not mad
Yeah.
about
yeah.
Yeah.
it. Pat, what about you?
Kind of similar to Lauren. I'm like very just uneducated in like this subject matter, like in general. Like I'd say like outside of like, you know, you're just like created Norse worlds that are like the Thors and those things that are just like taking characters and adapting them into their own weird stories and shit, but still take like, outside of that, like my only real exposure to it, I would say, is Vikings. And I didn't fully like commit to that show, but it was a great show. From what I think I watched just like the first season, but it was a great show. But yeah, this is so like things like that, like Kirby's diving into right now. I'm like, hey man, this is kind of interesting. I
Write
just
them
don't
down.
know anything about these movies and TV shows, but it is a subject I just really enjoy. But I've just never really seen a whole lot of canon about it.
There isn't. There honestly should be like a good anime for it or something. I just started the Blood
There
of
is.
Zeus. What?
No, there is.
Isn't that Vinland Saga? Yeah,
Vinland Saga is one of the best animes, or I should say mangas, that you'll ever see or read, starring Vikings. And I promise you should pick that up and you'll enjoy it.
I was gonna say people love
sir.
that show. People love that show.
Oh, it's so damn good. It's
that one's
just
been on the list
it's
for
just
me for a
nothing
little
but
bit.
killing, man. It's nothing but like badassery and killing. And
Yeah.
it's just following a bunch of shit. You gotta go see it, go
Yeah,
watch
I'm
it,
gonna
and
check
read
that
it.
out. I just started the Blood of Zeus, which is like obviously not what we're talking about, but that's pretty cool. For me,
Okay.
what do you got over there, guys?
Oh, I just said okay. It was just a random tidbit.
It was well. We kind of went down like an anime path, but for me, for like a movie or TV show, obviously like Thor Ragnarok's great, but like it's like the Marvel version of that. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this show called Ragnarok on Netflix. That show is actually pretty solid. So it's Norwegian, so it has subtitles and things like that, but it's basically like a reimagining of Norse mythology set in modern day Edda, which is like a fictional town in western Norway. And like one of the main characters is basically like the reincarnation of Thor, and like his brother is like Loki in the show. Like it's pretty cool, and how they go through everything and make it more of like a grounded version of that story.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
if you
I
guys-
saw that I saw that when I was doing some searches. I was like, oh, I just thought it was on Netflix, but I don't know why I just had totally missed my radar.
It's pretty solid. There's 2 seasons. I don't know if they're doing a third or not, but the first 2 seasons were pretty solid. Definitely worth a watch. So next question here. What is your guys' favorite god from Norse mythology? We'll start with Lauren first this time.
Me? Oh my goodness. I did look up a lot of different ones, and it was really hard for me to pick a favorite, but the one that kind of, I guess, stuck with me would be Frigg, Frigg, just because she is known as like the Earth Mother and the second sight, and I feel like out of all of them, she's probably the closest to what I am. I'm more like earthy and stuff like that. So it was very difficult to choose like
legit.
one. I was looking for a strong woman, and there's a lot. So it's either that or Hela, like the ruler.
Well, it's also
Frigg is Odin's wife.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I was supposed to say
Yeah.
that's Odin's wife.
So I am the mother of all.
Yeah, you're the queen of Asgard. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I think
if
you're
I'm
the
gonna,
goddess of love and fate.
yeah, man.
Queen of the Aesir.
Who wants to be a princess when they could be the freaking queen? So
Facts.
Right. But you are burdened with the gift of prophecy. I think legend has it though, you don't share it much though. Like you kind of like you're in
Watch
the
people go
background
through
chilling
it.
like, oh, I know you're gonna get fucked up, but I ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it's the internal battle of changing people's fate. You can't really change people's fate, so you know what's going to happen, but you have to see it play out. It can't
I
be
love
like,
that. That's exactly
there's a
what that is.
hill. Don't go there because it's the butterfly effect. Like maybe you need to go over that hill. So
And that was like Odin's whole thing. Odin would get so angry because it was like you were burdened with fate to know things, and like that was how Odin lost his eye, right? Was to be blessed with knowledge and
Yes.
like be able to like see things forward, but like he would never be able to like actually get full power because like Freya wouldn't like share things with him, would like freak out about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got greedy. He went to the I think the legend has it where I forget the guy who's just the head, the god of wisdom. I'll have to figure out his name again. But he was the guy who took Odin's eye in order to grant him wisdom.
Yes.
Is how I
Mimir.
think the original goes.
Mimir, yeah. Mimir.
Yep.
So his eye, he actually
So
plucked his out.
he's like, hey, here's your cost.
Yeah. He plucked out his
Yeah.
own eye and put
That
it
was his
in
cost.
his well to gain the knowledge of all worlds and self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
But that'll go into our more
what it's all
religion part of the conversation.
Kirby, what about you?
I've always been a big fan of Heimdall, the guardian of Asgard, the man who is supposed to be the herald of Ragnarok. He's just he's always alert, always on guard, and I just always thought he was such a badass. So that was an easy one for me. It's like, oh yeah, that's it.
He's even more of a badass when Idris Elba plays him.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's facts, actual.
Yeah.
Gums, who you picking over here?
My favorite god is probably going to be the god of war. He's the god of war and bloodshed. Is Tyr.
Tyr,
And
yeah.
this is the same god who locked away Fenrir, the wolf, the giant wolf, and he lost his arm to it. And I think Fenrir is just like, if Fenrir is considered a god, because I guess he could be, then I would switch to Fenrir, because I just like wolves in general. Like I got like a wolf tattoo, and I just like Fenrir is dope. But Tyr is probably my guy. He's just the goddess, he's the god of war and shit. So he gets to decide people's fate within war. So it's kind of funny.
You know what, Gums? We'll let you use Fenrir because he was on my list too, and that fucking wolves are sick. And the fact that he's just like
I
a
love him.
big ass wolf. Plus, he's Loki's kid, so it's like technically
Yeah.
he's a god, right? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he definitely is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, it's more like Tyr is more of a member of like the Aesir, but there's still a lot of other gods that
Yeah.
don't exist like within the umbrella of Aesir gods.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah,
so it's a
and
weird,
that's like
weird.
that's like a primary
like,
god. It's like
Yeah.
But at the same time, Fenrir is one of the most powerful. Like even though he's not a primary god, like Fenrir is literally they had to lock his ass away in fear that he was going to start Ragnarok because he was so
Yeah.
overpowered.
Doesn't he?
Like he
eat
was
Odin?
so overpowered.
In Ragnarok, he eats Odin.
Probably wouldn't doubt
I
it.
think.
He eats
I think
Odin,
that's a part
and
of
then one of his sons kills Fenrir afterwards. Which is kind of sick. Like the fact that a wolf just eats fucking Odin. Like, come on.
Num 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 num.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Man.
I'll say too. Mine was actually Tyr as well, and like part of the reason that mine was Tyr. So like I grew up like with a good part of my family is Greek, and I like growing up I was always really fascinated with Greek gods. And Ares, the god of war in that set of
Badass.
mythology, well, and most of the Greek gods for that matter, were just shitty people, right? Like they're just, I mean, not that the Norse gods weren't. There's a lot of stories about the Aesir being like terrible people and like, really being like, hungry for power and whatnot. But like a lot of the Greek gods were just like, they're just major tricksters and horn dogs for the most part in a lot of it. And like Ares for a lot of like Greek mythology was just more of like that powerful god of war who like really kind of like loved war and would like be causing destruction a lot of the times, versus Tyr in a lot of mythology is like that god of justice, like being more in like kind of like a just god of war kind of thing. He's more like kind of like the judge when it comes to like wars, and like the Fenrir thing's a prime example. Is like he was doing that to like save humanity kind of thing, and like save like the world. Those versus like in like Greek mythology and a lot of other religions have a god of war. It's more of like he is the god of war is somebody who like thrives within war, and I think it's an interesting take on like the god of war concept. Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm really glad you say that. That's factual. It's cool stuff.
I for my pick here, so I do like some of the gods and things like that, but I honestly think I can't pronounce it that well. Jormungandr, the serpent, basically.
The world serpent.
The world serpent is
Jormungandr.
fucking sick. Jormungandr?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, is fucking sick.
No,
like,
it's
Get your fucking fake Judaism out of here, okay? But technically he's not a god, but the serpent literally fights Thor, killing him in Ragnarok, also killing himself. But like he's known as the world eater, and like as a child, because he was a child of Loki, Odin saw the danger in him, threw him in the freaking ocean, and he just got so big where he surrounded the entire earth, which is like kind of pretty dope, honestly. So I had to go with him. I thought that was pretty sweet. I like destruction, guys. The world burn.
I mean, just a snake that goes across the entire world is crazy. But yeah, I guess technically you're right. He's considered a giant, right? Is his technical like race? Yeah, or whatever.
His race would be serpent.
I think they say
snake.
I think they say back then, like the Norse gods and the giants were like kind of almost one and the same. Like,
I know they're like
there's a lot of
tier.
like there's like a lot of like intertwining, and then because a lot of the shit we're listening to is based off Marvel. If we go off like what's based off the books or the other things, then it's like when they reference gods, they also reference giants, and they kind of say that they're every giant is a god. I'll put it that way, and every god is a giant. Does that make sense?
They don't really use the term god, right? It's like more of like it's like the Aesir and the Fenrir and the giants, and like they're like their own tiers. They don't necessarily say like Odin's like the god. They say he's like head of the Aesir, right? That's like more of the term that they'll use.
And they're all gods.
Yeah, they're just more of like they're all a higher tier than us in Midgard or whatever.
Yeah.
Guys, he's just a slippery snock. Just a slippery snock. For all you non-millennials, I don't know if you get that great YouTube reference there. What are you gonna say?
Are all Loki's children animals?
Yeah.
I think so, right? Because I think in original Norse mythology,
his daughter,
he can.
So his daughter is Hel, the goddess that oversees Hel.
Helheim.
Yeah.
How the fuck did he have a kid wolf and a kid snake?
Well, I did read that he shape-shifted into the animal and got impregnated.
Oh, that's right.
He is a shapeshifter.
He's gender fluid. He fucked as a horse, I remember, and he created like some type of like I forget what creature he created, but he created another creature that's very well known. I want to say it's like a water creature of some sort.
This is a different podcast, but Mystique also has tons of children because she shape-shifted into men. So that's a different podcast.
I just
multiverse.
Like Loki turned into a snake. He was like, that snake's looking real nice over there. Just slither on my way over there.
Sounds good.
He don't care.
Nope.
He don't
Loki
care.
was getting down. Yeah, Loki's hella gender fluid. I forgot. That's crazy.
He's
I forgot
Metro.
that makes a lot of sense.
He's just Metro. He's just,
Yeah, slow out there.
He literally does what he wants.
Yep.
Good for Loki.
Well, are you going to stop him?
True. Actual.
Yeah.
So we all talked about our favorite gods here. What is your favorite weapon? Favorite Norse weapon, I should say. Kirby, I'm gonna start with you because you look like you just are so excited.
He's like, well, actually, he just pulls it. It's like,
well, there is this absolutely badass sword in Norse mythology called Dainsleif, and it was wielded by King I want to say King Honig, and any wounds that were produced by this blade could not be healed. And any time that it was set loose from its scabbard, it had to kill a man. So it's just this amazingly badass weapon.
That is gangster as fuck, actual.
It's fucking dope. So that one has always been one of my favorite weapons.
Question: if you are the owner of that sword and then you accidentally cut yourself, can you heal it?
No.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, no way.
The wounds do not heal. So it had to be used with purpose.
You better be a good swordsman then. You'll
Yes.
be chopping off your own fucking arm.
Well, you also can't just accidentally just unsheath. You can't unsheath it and show it to your homies. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look how dope my sword is. Like,
Well,
One of them's gonna have to die.
Yeah.
my luck.
Hey, you want to see it, man? Fuck, tough shit.
My luck, I'll unsheath it and drop it on my foot, and there goes my foot. You know.
Is that
like
how
there
that
it is.
Is that how that saying goes? If I tell
You
you,
can loophole
I'll
it.
have to kill you, die.
Yeah,
I'll have to
exactly,
kill
yeah.
you, start.
If I show you my sword, look.
You could loophole it Lord of the Rings style. You know, when she rips off her mask and says, "I am no man," and she kills the Lich King.
there you go.
Yep.
I mean, this might be a loophole in which you drop it on your
True.
foot and you're good to go, Lauren.
It
You
does
might have a
specifically
bleed
say
forever, but
it does specifically say it has to kill a man.
Ooh, well then,
Terminology, yeah.
my toesies are safe.
there's a loophole.
Lord's dusting it off I'm fucking chilling. Let's go.
I mean, you're gonna still bleed from that little spot forever, but
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to heal the wound necessarily. You know, you can.
You're
just
definitely
gauze
not
it up.
stoked.
I mean, it'll just be a long death. So,
Lauren, what's your weapon of
No.
choice?
I actually was trying to think, and the thing that came to mind is the game Valheim. So, all the axes that you can throw. So the bearded axe that you can throw, and it comes back to you.
Oh yeah.
So I was trying to think of that.
Oh god, I can't remember the name of the axe
in the
that
God
Thor.
of War, too.
Yeah, the axe specifically that Thor wields. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. It's going to bother me.
I mean, I know in the movies they call it Stormbreaker. I don't know what its Nordic name is.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that. That rocks.
Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
Thor's
We'll Google
axe.
it later.
Yeah.
though.
So it is just Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a badass weapon, though.
Yeah.
It's a little big. I want something that fit in my pocket.
I do think Norse
Pure
weapons are
magic.
so cool because they're always crafted by these super mythic creatures in a dying
Yeah.
star,
Yeah.
and you're just dude, this is wild.
All one
you
of a
want something?
kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The craftsmanship is immaculate too on all these damn pieces.
Yeah.
All the craftsmanship is some of the best weapons in craftsmanship I've ever seen in any weapon throughout
Yeah.
the world.
You can't get any of that now.
Dope.
Everything's plastic now.
Can't get any-
None of these
get any of that
good
now.
weapons are out there anymore. Back in the
They don't
day,
got any,
they,
they don't got any.
had
They don't got any dwarf star magic type shit going
No.
on.
Nope.
Fuck. Yeah.
they use
If you
it all
wanted
up.
something, Lauren, if you wanted something for your pocket, you could have got the Skidbladnir, which is a ship that the gods used to ride around, and they would put it in their pocket
There you go.
when they go on land. I was talking to Pat about that earlier, and it's pretty
Would you
tight.
go sailing with me in the dark sea?
No.
Oh,
Hey, you can.
His
you
fear
could
of
use it
open
in the
ocean
air.
now goes away because he's got a pocket ship. Yeah.
Gums, what you got for us?
So this is great, and it's a little long-winded. I'm going to read to you, but it's Skofnung. I may have pronounced that wrong, but basically it is also a blade. It's not a sword, but I would say it's probably a little shorter than a sword. Nobody really knows, but let's just go with that. It's a blade. It has supernatural sharpness and hardness, but what makes it so powerful is it keeps 12 faithful berserkers inside as bodyguards. So they're bound to the blade. So at any time, I can fight you and then call upon my 12 berserkers so we can jump the shit out of you and just gang stomp you. On top of that, though, it said the sword is so widely reputed it inspired another tale of an Icelander named Skeggi. And basically, it's kind of similar to dance leaf. So it produces wounds that will never heal, although there is an antidote for this one. There's a stone that's matched with this blade, and you can rub it on the wound and it will heal it automatically. So I am able to heal you. But it is said, here's the funny part, it says, Skofung is so powerful that it can never be drawn in the presence of women, and it must never have the sun shine upon its hilt.
Could you imagine you're
Like,
just like
what?
talking shit? Yeah, can you imagine you're just like talking shit to someone at a bar and they're like, let's take this shit outside, like bust out the sword, and then 12 other motherfuckers like pop up and you're like, hold on a fucking second. Like,
And all the women go to the bathroom together.
Hold on.
yeah, everyone's, it's like dark as shit outside. Like,
Guys,
Well, if it
I
can't,
gotta go around the corner to draw it because it's. I gotta like go around the corner to pull it out because like, hey, they can't see this,
can't be seen.
and I can only fight at night. That'd be funny as shit.
Yeah.
Like, hey, yo.
So a little truth:
That's so
the real
funny.
reason all the women go to the restroom is so the men can fight because women can't be present. So
Yeah, that's what's going on there.
guys, there's a lot of open wounds here, and I think this is a good time for us to throw in the fact that they should be using Vicks Vapor Rub lavender scent,
Lavender scent.
to heal those wounds real quickly. They said there wasn't a cure
right.
for those open wounds, but have they tried Vicks Vapor Rub?
Not with
Wasn't around
lavender.
then, was
I
it?
don't think they have, Seth.
No.
I don't think they have.
I doubt it.
I don't. I think with a little bit of that and some 7-Up, they're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of that, some 7-Up.
But I will tell you this though. What I really love too about Norse mythology is like, so they say, hey, you can't draw it in the presence of a woman. Oh, this can only kill a man. And then if you know quite a bit about their culture, is that women also fought in the battles. They were an integral part to the society. They could actually divorce a man without like having the man's approval. So like in the Viking culture, they really cared about their women. So like these things, when they're saying, hey, you can't be drawn in front of a woman, isn't because they look down upon the woman. It's because they respect the women so much that they're saying these things, which I just find so fascinating because a culture that ancient, we're just like now catching up to. So it's really kind of cool when you think about it.
Yeah.
well, that goes into Freya, the goddess of war. So we'll go into that a little bit more. But so I did read that when warriors perish, the good ones go to her and the bad ones go to hell.
Yeah.
So she
Yeah,
welcomes
that's it.
she
That's the access
welcomes
to Valhalla. Yeah.
She's the, hey, welcome to Valhalla. You'll die every day, but don't worry, you'll have everything you want.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
Honestly-
You get Vicks Vapor Rub. Like it's just,
Honestly,
Just
some
a
of
stockpile.
the women like gods and most of the different mythologies like Greek things like that. So most of them were always badass. Like some of them were actually more badass than their like male counterparts.
Yeah.
So it is cool to see that going back as far as Norse mythology goes, how like equal some of them were.
Yeah.
Especially because everybody thought they were just a bunch of barbarians, Vikings, and things like that. So
and they're worshiping us.
yeah. What about you, Pat?
For the
What's your
weapon,
weapon?
I was choosing Gungnir, which is Odin's spear. And I did really was like kind of looking into this one
Nice.
and just like the idea that like no matter like you could be wearing 10 sheets of armor on your chest, it's still piercing anything that it hits. It's perfectly balanced. It's just like I think the idea of just having like the perfect spear that you could literally pierce anyone's armor and will almost always be accurate no matter who he throws it at was like a cool concept. And it's just like it's something that it's almost like doesn't seem like too overly powerful. Like I'm not like it's not like cutting a wound and then it just never heals. It's not like going in, but it's just one of those things like good fucking luck. It's just a spear, but you're going down. Like it's just not happening. Like
I'm distracted by all the animals today.
What are you doing, dude?
Well, hopefully it doesn't turn around and show you his good spots.
Until you get jumped by 12 berserkers, Pat. I'm going to have
Facts.
one take that spear right to the chest as I roll up on the side of you. Right in the Achilles. Floop.
Here's the thing: you throw that thing open, you get the 12 berserkers. I'm looking around at all 12 of these dudes, and I'm like, okay, who's got the sword? I'm throwing it at him. Like, get him out of the way. I'll deal with the other motherfuckers later. Like,
Just John Wick that shit.
yeah.
I mean, for
I'm
me,
making it out of there alive.
right? There were a lot of great weapons, but like I had to go with Mjolnir. Like Thor's hammer is just so sick. Like the fact that I can wield lightning and throw it at your face, and then throw the hammer at you and crush you to death is pretty tight. Like, give me the powers of Storm.
I do love that story too. Just
Yeah.
like the idea of how they forged Mjolnir and how it was like, just like that contest between between the two dwarves that were like looking to like make presents for the Aesir gods, and like Loki gets involved and he basically like bamboozles himself. I think that's just fucking hilarious. Like,
Mjolnir is a freaking sick weapon. So I'm gonna be basic as fuck here, but I'm going with Mjolnir.
Now, do you feel like you are worthy enough to will it?
Hell yeah. Like Vision, I'm just gonna come up out of nowhere, fucking grab the hammer, walk out.
Like, poof. Seth
Your
out.
arm's still there.
My arm's still
Dude's
there.
arm detaches.
I got the power of Moses behind me.
yeah.
Oh, hey,
I'm sure
what powers
Odin really
guy
likes
got?
that. Yeah.
Odin's
that guy
homies.
is
What are you
just-
talking about? They're homies together.
There you go.
Yeah, sure.
Hey everyone, thank you for checking out this episode of the Rolling Credits podcast. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star rating. It really helps us out. Now, let's keep it rolling.
Well, why is Norse mythology so popular?
Nice transition.
There's no
We're
way
just
to
like, no,
transition.
we're just gonna skate by that.
We're just gonna skip by that.
Smooth it right over. All right.
Right. Vicks Vapor.
Yeah.
Now's a good time to talk about some of our other sponsors. But yeah, why is Norse mythology so popular? We'll start with you, Pat. Do you have a good?
Yeah, I think it's the same reason that Greek mythology is so popular, and just like the reason that like a lot of just ancient kind of pagan religions kind of become so popular in and of themselves, because I just think it's something that a lot of the stories that you read from these things, I mean, they're just great stories. I mean, and they're things that like you read and it's like these are better than most fantasy novels that you read now, kind of thing. And then you couple that with the idea of the impact that they had in those regions at the time, and how many people like really followed those ideas for centuries, right? So I think it's just something that like it's so easy to get behind, because you're like, it's just so fascinating about how they kind of viewed religion at that time versus how we view religion now, and like kind of that parallel between the two that you see. I think it's very easy to latch onto those concepts the same way that people love writing stories and telling things about like Zeus and Ares and like the Greek gods, and like how that works with Roman gods and how those are so similar. And I think just like that relationship between all those different subsects becomes really interesting to people.
Yeah. Gums, what about you?
Point. Yeah, so I think it's so popular because it's one of the few surviving religions Christianity couldn't snuff out. As you know, Christianity was literally like the most violent religion ever to have ever been created. And I think that people really are attracted to superpowers, like, to be quite frank. Like, all these gods, no matter what religion you're in, have some type of superpowers. And so if you mix in a little bit of storytelling with those superpowers, you start to fantasize about the greater beings, right? So I think people really just love superpowers and super abilities, and then love learning about them because of how cool they are. I don't necessarily, in my opinion, think people really care as much as why they were created. Like why Odin is there. Like, I don't think people I mean, except for the scholars, but I don't think the average Joe will say, oh, well, why did they create Odin? You know, why was the war god Tyr created? Oh, must have been a lot of war, so they had to have a reason for it, you know? And in my opinion, I'm like, yeah, probably, but I'm more addicted to the Odin has a spear that can pierce anything. Like, what? Tell me about this. Like, and so I think that's why it's so popular, and also because it has survived Christianity's rule. And the religion is so powerful. That's why Christianity wanted to snuff out all these religions, that once it stays around, it's there. And I think that's why it's so popular.
I think kind of to your point too there, I think the idea of all of them kind of almost having their own little like superpower, right? I think that's so much more interesting than a lot of kind of like modern religion too, where you see in most modern religions, you see a lot of people, they worship a god, and in most scripture that is usually all powerful, all benevolent, kind of in every way. I do think, and this is obviously we're talking mainly about stories and scriptures versus like actual like belief systems, right? More than anything else. But I think it is interesting the way that you like kind of look at some of these like specifically like in Norse religion. It's like every god's a little different, and I think it's interesting to see those relationships versus kind of in most monotheistic kind of ideologies where it is usually one person like kind of all powerful, all benevolent, and it's just like kind of an overarching umbrella. I think people get really attached to the idea of, no, I really like Loki, or like Thor is so cool, or Tyr is so awesome, and kind of being able to latch onto these individual characters.
Kind of go off of that. Just also the fact that, like you're saying, you know, a lot of religions are the one entity, and this is more of gods and goddesses. So it's kind of one, like someone for everyone. Like you may not particularly connect with this one, but you'll find one that you do connect, and it makes it a little bit more feasible instead of this one all that does everything. Like having, no, this one doesn't do everything. They're the god of war. They're the god of fertility. Like they do the one thing. That's it. Like they don't do everything. Yeah. So it's more relatable to me.
I did want to say too real quick, and then I'll let you go, Horn and Kirby. But like kind of to your guys' points about having like these superpowers and things like that. That's kind of where I came in with, you know, why I think Norse mythology is popular. Because I mean, for the same reason that like all these Marvel superheroes, like Marvel's the number one, you know, most watched thing right now. There's this like fantastical world filled with like creatures and beings with like this great power that is something that people can look up to, whereas like it's not just one ruler, it's like all of these people working together to create kind of like a better world, and it's something that people kind of just flock to, and it's kind of like an escape for people. And that's kind of where I thought, you know, it kind of is popular. Because, I mean, you look with it, you know, Greek mythology or, you know, Egyptian, things like that. There's all these different super powered beings that basically everybody looks up to. So that's kind of where I wanted to kind of chime in real quick.
Well, the reason I feel like they're still popular, and this could be just completely like my personal opinion, is growing up, I was, you know, there's a lot of fables, there's a lot of storytelling as a small child of all these different things that happen, and then it kind of sparks your interest, and then you grow up and you find out the real fables and the real stories behind them, and they're a lot harsher. So for me, I feel like in order for it to continue to be of discussion, we do need to kind of make sure that we are teaching our kids like the different stories and stuff like that, and pique their interest. Because I feel like right now, and speaking as someone who doesn't have children, but right now I feel like it's so hard to keep the old ways, and now everything's just electronic, and it's really important to sit around and tell these stories, to read these books, and there's so much history in the world, and I feel like if we're not careful, it's going to kind of fade away. So the reason it's still relevant is because people are still telling their kids these stories. There's still just the interests, and I think it does. A lot of fables and a lot of fairy tales do kind of derive from somewhere, and they derive from parts of different mythologies.
Yeah, and a lot of times we tell like the watered down version, right?
Completely watered down version of it.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you kind of grow up, and you're like, man, that was a really cool story I read a long time ago. Or maybe you're like taking a class on something that like because that like piqued your interest, and you're like, wow, Thor was kind of a dick. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't remember that. Like, and that kind of spirals down in there. So there is some like kind of some nuance to that, right? Of how often we like tell that watered down only to grow up and realize how much different it really is.
how kind of fucked up it was.
I just want to say one last thing before you go, Gums, real quick, because I know you brought up the point of having these stories and things like that, but some of the games today have like amazing stories. So like God of War, for example, is going through Ragnarok and things like that right now, and I learned a crap ton of stuff playing that video game that I never learned in school. So I think there are ways to incorporate that where it still tells the story in a good way, where it's not just, although we're losing some of this by reading, we're getting it in other ways for a newer generation.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, like, stuff. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say I want to say two things now. Two things. One, there's religion, and then there's mythology, right? And under religion lies mythology. So there's a lot of religions that have different mythologies. For instance, you have like the Chupacabra in Puerto Rico. There's no religion that sits under it other than maybe Christianity. But there are mythologies that sit, those two things can be mutually exclusive, mythologies and religions. But I just wanted to make that point because, to be honest, I think a lot of kids nowadays, a lot of people nowadays have opened up a lot more doors and have access to a lot more information, and they might just be bored with our monotheistic religion. Not that they don't know it or don't practice it. They might, it's just like, how cool is this other stuff? And they've got 12 gods over here. Like, look how sweet this is. This, just learning. And that's how I was. Like, I loved world religion. I went to a Catholic college. I had to learn about Christianity, and I was like, yo, but tell me about Hinduism and Buddhism, man. Look at these six-armed gods with these swords. Like, what's up? And there's going to be, those stories are really, really well told in the other various forms of media, like video games and adaptions and other things. One thing you'll see is you have a lot more creative ability when you use those instead of talking about monotheistic, right? Like, there's like some type of glass ceiling on anything religious that's mono, because it's like the large religions that control. So you have to be careful what you do. So I think it's fun. I think it's a great way to learn these religions. But just remember, all these religions are coming from an ancient past, and everything is being interpreted. And I'll be nice and say it that way. Everything is being interpreted, okay?
Yeah.
That's for every religion, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
That's every religion, every story, everything's always different as the years go on.
And then
I think I might find a Dead Sea Scroll tomorrow if I look in my backyard. Who knows?
Right?
I think I cut Kirby off on your... I cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, just like, no, I want to talk.
Yeah. So like, just, in modern, times, like just recently, we've seen a lot of utilization in like with Norse mythology and just in pop culture. You see it a lot, especially now with like Thor and all that being in the MCU and stuff like that. But you have, different movies and different TV shows coming up. So, that's kind of really taken off, and it is, the telling of these stories in just a different medium. But, from kind of like a theological standpoint, like I really think it's due to the fact that like the Norse gods are really just flawed individuals, and it makes them very relatable. Because like if you look at any Abrahamic religions like Christianity, like you've got this perfect God and an imperfect man, and like man is constantly having to correct themselves and stay on this like quote unquote like righteous path. And with like any sort of faith or religion that focuses on multiple gods, like be it Norse mythology, Greek mythology, whatever, the gods are kind of humanized because they have to they make mistakes, they have to learn from them. So that's
like your cool aunt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone
It's
has
like
one.
you've got like that cool aunt and that questionable uncle that you don't really go around at Christmas parties.
Yeah.
But there was really no central like holy book to these religions either. Like what do they have for Norse mythology? It's like the Edda wasn't actually written until after the widespread use of Christianity. So back when like Norse mythology would really have been a mainstay in everyday life, it wasn't like this centralized thing, so there was nothing telling you how you had to approach your religion or like any specific things that you had to do. Yeah, there's no do's and don'ts. So yeah, I think that's why it was really popular back then, is it was more of a individual faith instead of a centralized centralized
Systematic.
faith. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just create our own faith here, incorporate all of the different gods.
There you go. We can be tax exempt.
Exactly.
Ew.
We become the cult of Zeus's children.
Now we're talking. Now we're
There we
talking
go.
here.
This is why we made this
Tax
I will be
podcast.
Odin's
Yeah.
daughter. Like,
Join our cult of Norse mythology.
There you go.
Why do you gotta call it a cult? Oh my god.
Yeah,
Come on, bro.
usually that's like dead on arrival. We don't need to be doing that. Like,
We're gonna go ahead and knock you out of that one, Seth. I don't know what's going on.
Nobody's
I'm
drinking the
leaving.
Kool-Aid,
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna create my own cult, I guess.
I'll join your cult.
Yes,
Me and
yes,
the cats.
please.
There you go.
Yes.
There we go.
step one, call it a cult. Yeah, that's a great marketing.
Yes,
move.
Step
Steph,
two,
there we
rename.
go, Pat.
Yeah.
Recategorize.
I think that's the outro for today. Step one, call it a cult.
Step two, no taxes.
Great Odin's beard. I thought that was going to be your outro. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to check out my movie and TV show review page called According to Seth. So it's @According to Seth, and I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for some more amazing content and some fun clips. So make sure you stop by. Well, going back to Norse mythology and not talking about cults, do you guys have any sweet Norse facts that people might know about? We'll start with you, Gums.
Heck yeah, we do. The days of the week are basically named after Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that people do not pay attention to at all. And if nobody would say it, I don't think you'd think about it. And I'm talking about like almost all the days of the week are named after Norse gods.
Yep.
Another reason why I want to be
Fun
Frigg,
fact.
she's named after Friday's named after her.
Yep.
So
Yep.
And Tears Thursday.
Yep.
And Odin is also known as Woden with a
Yep.
W, which gives us Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
woke
And
Odin.
it'd be Thursday is Thor is actually Thor for
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. Thursday.
Thursday. It's like you have a list.
isn't that sweet?
It's Thursday.
Now, when you get married, you got to get married on Friday because Frigg have something to do with fertility or something?
Yes.
Like there's certain days now I feel like I need to go back to and only do certain things on those days.
Yeah.
Now that I know the meaning.
Fair.
What about you, Lauren?
I didn't know that that Sif, I probably pronounced her name incorrectly, Sif.
Yes.
I didn't know that Loki actually shaved her head, and on the verge of being killed by Thor, he talked some people into getting her golden hair. So the reason she has golden hair is because she first got freaking shaved, and then so that's an interesting fact that I didn't know. The reason she has her gold hair is because she originally got shaved, and then Thor almost killed Loki, and Loki's like, "Oh, just kidding. I'll give her golden locks."
Freaking Loki.
Yeah. And the more to that story is in order to get those golden locks, he had to go to the dwarves to have it created. And that's when Loki started fucking around and having a competition with those dwarves because he morphed into a dwarf or something. And then he started talking shit to him. And then he said, I can make better treasures than you. And then they said, oh, yeah, let's do it. So what came out of that was actually Mjolnir, Thor's hammer as well, as the gold locks. So on his adventure to get the gold locks, to make Thor happy, they also created Mjolnir from that escapade.
It's pronounced Mjolnir.
Fucking wild. Fucking wild out here. Loki just is I mean, I would have like, what are you gonna do with Loki? Somebody had to shut this dude down. He literally is too much. He's too much.
He just
Everybody
is
loves
one
Loki.
hug. You know, he just needs one good hug. Like he just, he's the kid that wants
one
to
that
get all the
squishes
straight
him.
Ears. Yeah,
Oh man.
he's nobody's favorite.
Mine is actually based more around like the what would be like the Norse people, not so much the gods, but they're actually known for having really good hygiene, which is something I didn't know. They're supposed to be very well groomed people, like, you know, in movies and shows they're kind of portrayed as like these barbaric people, but they're actually like supposed to be very well groomed, and like of all of the tools that have been uncovered by like archaeologists, stuff like that, I guess grooming tools were some of the most widely used throughout the culture. So that one was kind of a cool thing that I found while looking, you know, this stuff up, because it's not really how they're portrayed in like movies and TV shows.
Do you think they were wearing a Creed's Viking?
No.
You know what's actually like kind of like, this is kind of like my half fun fact that kind of like goes off of kind of that same thought, is that in that same vein, apparently the idea of like Nordic people like being super heavily tattooed and whatnot is like, there's nothing in like records that supports that like ideology, that like that Nordic people, and like in most like TV shows and in like books or movies and all that kind of stuff, you usually see people with like these really kind of crazy like Nordic symbol looking type tattoos, and there's actually very little to support the idea that like Norse people at that time would ever have like had like a normal form of like applying tattoos.
Yeah.
Same thing with their horned helmets.
Yep.
They say that wasn't even really a thing. Christianity gave them all this shit to make them seem like demons.
Yep.
So they must have put up one heck of a fight to make Christianity do this to them. Like they must have been bad. Like just these like fucking super attractive 6'5" women and men, super groomed, just battle warriors,
Smelling
who could just divorce each
amazing.
other at will.
In a big
Smelling
ass
like
ship,
Vicks
just
Vapor
showing
Rub
up on
lavender scent.
All lavender, head to toe.
With the best like canoes and warships they've ever seen. And Christianity was like, oh fuck, we gotta do something about this.
and they're just and they're just terrorizing Scotland and England, just terrorizing them every day. Like,
Guys, I have to bring it back for us for a second. Kirby, this one's for you. So, basically, Die Hard.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah. Wait for it.
Wait.
I was gonna say that. He's my
Let me get to
favorite
it,
god.
guys.
Yeah.
We can thank Odin for Die Hard because he is a precursor to Santa Claus. He rode Sleipnir, which is an 8-legged flying horse. In winter, Odin gave out both gifts and punishments to children and would fill their boots or stockings with treats for Sleipnir. In addition, Yuletide became Christmas over the years, and in Norse mythology, that festival followed the midwinter solstice, which is usually around the 21st of December. And then it involved basically lots of drinking, consuming slaughtered animals, and it lasted for 12 days, hence the 12 days of Christmas. So basically what I'm trying to say is that thanks to Odin, Die Hard exists.
I would like to officially change my favorite Viking movie to Die Hard.
Die Hard.
I fucking hate it here.
Yo, Seth, I'm not even gonna lie. That was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. I am pleasantly happy with that.
I think that's better than the original Die Hard as a Christmas movie argument.
Yeah, that was good.
Even better than that.
Fair.
I love that research. That was
sick of this
great.
goddamn argument.
I mean,
Thanks, guys.
We're just drumming Pat out of this podcast. He's
had you in the
Just fucking beat me
John
over the head with
McClane
it.
and Odin, they both sacrificed themselves. There's a lot of
Had you guys in the
similarities.
first half, didn't I?
Yeah,
And then
you did. I'm starting to think that that what happened wasn't that Christianity took over this religion. Instead, they called a truce and said, fuck it. We'll name the days of the week after you. We'll do Christmas. Just like stop beating our ass. Like we'll be fine. Like there is so much intertwined into that. And some of the best stuff, by the way. So, yeah.
Well, you know, also the Nords, the three wise women, they weaved fates. So maybe they just told them, like, this is how it's going to go. So you either come with us or...
Yeah.
So... Which then was taken over by the Eastern religions and became the three wise men?
Yes.
I don't know, dude.
Yep.
What's happening here?
Also, a lot of the festivals and like celebrations all came from Norse mythology and things like that, and how they celebrated. Not only obviously Christmas, but there were other holidays and things like that they celebrate that are still celebrated today, or just
like
different
Easter
renditions. I don't know if Easter's one, probably is.
No, Easter's not one.
You never know.
I think Flag Day is. Is it Flag Day? No.
That's sweet. Think about that, dude. I think they called the truce. And they said, hey, let's just be together instead of
just
apart.
Go to Norway, keep it over there. Like...
Die Hard's never going to leave this
think
podcast.
about it.
There is
That was
always
a great segment.
at least one discussion in these podcasts that makes me change my favorite movie to Die Hard for that specific subject.
I almost went there, but I was like, no, I don't want to see Pat break.
Well, I'm glad you liked it for me.
Right when he said it, I was like, just fucking log me off.
Come on.
Right? Just get me out of here.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but
the
mine makes
connection.
sense. The connection's there.
Okay.
All right, what else-
I'm gonna
what
get
else
into
we
my
got?
I'm going to get into my actual fun fact now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Is it about Die Hard?
No.
Oh, okay,
God, no. But it actually does kind of actually circle back to like the earlier part of this question that Gums was kind of talking about the story of Mjolnir and its creation with Loki kind of becoming involved. In that story actually resulted in the creation of not just Mjolnir or the Golden Locks, but also Skidbladnir, the ship that fits in your pocket, Gungnir, which is Odin's spear, Gullinbursti, which is the hog with the golden hair that we were talking about, and Dropnir. It was a golden ring that like replicates itself like every week. So you basically have an unlimited supply of gold. Essentially, is what that ring was essentially designed for. And obviously Mjolnir being like kind of the pinnacle of like what came out of that story, but like there are like 6 or 7 items that are pretty pivotal in Norse mythology that all came out of the same story.
Mm-hmm.
This just turned into the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, that's how marriage started. They said, hey, man, we got to keep handing out rings.
Look at all these rings.
But I want to let everybody know I got a ship in my pocket. Tell you that much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is my
Actually,
ship in my pocket.
We
so.
literally do have a ship here.
Wait, ready?
There you
Put it in your
go.
pocket.
I also
And it
have.
I
goes
can't
in
reach
my
my
pocket.
ship.
I do have
have shit.
a Viking dwarf here. I don't know if it's gonna. I may not.
I don't know if it's out of focus.
It's not gonna focus. Nope.
It's not
Nope.
a ship.
But anyway, that's.
Oh, let me just
Baby
put
Yoda.
him back in his ship.
His name is
I like
Timothy,
Baby
and he
Yoda.
sits with my guitar picks.
You'll just go this
He has
way.
Grogu,
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Little Grogu.
little baby Yoda. Yeah.
I too had a ship over here, but I couldn't grab it in time. So
You know
just
what
give me the
favorite
pada
thing-
bing 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 from the drums.
My favorite thing that just happened was that Pat was just so upset with my Christmas take that he had to go back and give another response.
Fuck yeah, I was like, pass. Give me the fuck out of here.
That's fair.
Everything
Back
leads
on
back
track.
to Die Hard.
Pat, since
Speaking
Pat
of
wants to
Die Hard,
basically-
Valhalla.
right? Yeah. Well, speaking, of this, Pat, really wanting to kill me right now. What afterlife would you guys choose? Because there's multiple afterlives. I thought there was only Valhalla, but apparently there's like multiple. So, which of the other ones would you guys choose and why? Gums, let's go with you.
I'm gonna probably choose an afterlife of anything that will allow me to reincarnate. I'm not necessarily sticking through the lines of Norse mythology on this. I kind of want to be able to reincarnate so that I can continue to do that. But I'd like to reincarnate with my memories. I think that would be fun.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't want to do purgatory. I don't want to do limbo. I'm not trying to go to hell. Valhalla, you die every day. I don't know, man. It's a wild time.
I respect it. What would you want to be reincarnated as?
That's a good question.
Dude, I'm really into like these reincarnation novels about like reincarnating into getting like a game system. So I'd want to like reincarnate into like I'd want to like reincarnate into some alternate world where like I got a level up system where it's like if I beat somebody up, I get like 10 experience points and I get stronger and shit. And then like I got a little system that I can like run around and be an RPG. That's
called
what
the
I'm
one of those
metaverse.
things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like your consciousness like uploads into like this like cloud game kind of thing.
Watch any Japanese anime right now, and
It's like Free Guy.
that's it.
Technically.
Yeah,
Kinda.
kind of like Free
Totally.
Guy. But I want to be able to level up, and that's what I would do.
That's pretty cool.
Live a fun
dig it.
life.
Yeah. Well, soon it'll be reality with the metaverse. So
Yeah,
we'll
true.
just be alive.
Just upload my consciousness into the metaverse and never leave.
Exactly.
Find different transitions to Die Hard. This will be great. We'll haunt Pat.
Upload my consciousness. It's just like a recreation of like a Die Hard video game, and I'm just like, yeah, this is my fucking hell.
Escape
That's
from
the- you know what's the worst part
It's-
about this whole bit is I like that movie. Like, I fucking like Die
gonna
Hard.
be-
and-
It's going to be
metaverse is
Pat's
Escape
head
from
on Bruce
Yakutoma
Willis's
Plaza.
body.
yeah.
You're gonna have to escape from
Can
the
it be?
plaza.
Can it be Bruce Willis's body in Pat's head, and just that's
Yeah,
what his
it's-
avatar has to be?
Nice.
Lauren, what do you got for us?
Folkvar or Folkver. So it's ran
Oh, yeah,
by
Folkvanger. Yeah.
Freya. So I'd rather go there than Hela or Hell. But I'd rather go there because she's also the goddess of love, war, fertility, and it's described as having tons of meadows. So I think that's pretty, safe. I'd rather go there than, a Heliferno where you die every day. And I just want to chill after death. I've lived a very hard life. I'm very busy. I just want to chill.
Facts.
You don't want your bed next to a lava pit?
No, I get hot easily. I'd rather have it, a little breezy.
Same. Kirby, can I just go real quick because she took mine too?
Go for it.
Sorry, jeez.
Jeez.
Fine, I'll go to hell.
So mine was Folkvanger. I don't know how to
Everything's just fuck.
right? Also, like, same reason. Like, Freya's the shit. She runs it. Only the best warriors found themselves there, and like the ones who like got defeated got sent to Valhalla. Whereas like the ones who are just badass ended up there, and you don't have to go fight in Ragnarok. It didn't say anywhere that they had to go fight in Ragnarok. Whereas in Valhalla, they're all called up to go fight with Odin, and everybody knows I'd be a dope warrior. So.
So I was under the impression though that like the mightiest heroes that like died in battle, they go to Valhalla. Like,
Yeah,
how.
I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
Yeah.
Because they need the help.
Because they want.
And then
like,
there's others.
There's
are
the
all
ones that
talk.
are tripping on their own weapons. Yeah, we went to the meadows. They're like, you know what?
Well, like,
We're
good
benching
size
you. We don't
shoes.
need you anymore. It's fine.
that is the bench.
Yeah, I got the
They
ultimate
go,
bench
why
next.
are we here?
I got a nice meadow. I'm fine being benched. It's fine.
They're like, why are we here? Because you guys are the best warriors. Now get your silly little heads in here. Just get over here.
just- we're here to
Just
hang
straight
out.
line. Just come on.
Go chill under
Yeah,
a tree.
you're the
You're
best.
good.
You're the best.
Go get your
Get out of the way.
daisies and your daffodils, and we'll just chill.
Well, I mean, geez, since we're opening it up to like any religion that it involves like reincarnation and shit, I'll throw in like that whole Christian afterlife bliss. Sounds pretty nice. I could use a vacation, but within the actual confines of the real question here, I am gonna be a basic bitch and want to go to Valhalla. Like, I want that rowdy, drunken fighting party. And then go fight in Ragnarok, because if I'm living that life, if I'm a proud Norseman, that's the greatest honor right there, is to ride with Odin and and participate in the Battle of Ragnarok. So
I feel like Kirby would be a very good like Viking. Like he's got the whole metal persona down. He's rugged. He's ready to go.
I'm ready for it.
I'll be building a fire,
Well
so
groomed.
I'll do the man's work.
I'm gonna go basic with you too. I'm going to Valhalla. You know, I think that to your point is like I want to be like getting fucked up every night, just like casual bar fights just for shits, like, but we all hug it out after.
Yep.
I might get stabbed at the end of the day, but fuck it. Like I'm waking up, we're doing it all over again,
Yep.
and we're just there for glory and honor. Like I'm in.
Yep.
Like
I just want to go wherever Lady Sif is.
So yeah, if I could get into Valhalla, so one of my favorite bands actually is this band called Amon Amarth, and they're from Sweden. The name actually means what is it? It's Mount Doom in Swedish. So it's already a nerd level band, but they're like this like melodic death metal band and everything. It's all about like Norse mythology and stuff like that, which is why I know a lot about this crap anyway, because I started listening to this band and got interested in it. But if I could just like throw that on some headphones and get into a bar fight, like, yeah, I'm going to Valhalla.
just mosh it out. Yeah, I'm in.
Can I switch mine so I can come party with you guys in Valhalla?
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm sticking to my meadows.
Right?
I gotta say too, just like kind of like looking into this kind of outside of Folkvanger and Valhalla, the other realms of hell in Norse mythology just don't sound that great. I mean, like the
they're
other
not.
three
They
that you're rocking with is like basically like the burial mound, which is essentially like a shitty version of purgatory.
Yeah.
Like, and then the realm of
You're a
Rand,
ghost.
which is you're a ghost. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
a Draugr, right, or whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
You're stuck to a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
you're
ocean-
literally stuck to a hill.
The ocean
then-
realm is where we're going to send Kirby.
Yeah,
That'd be
see, like
that would be
that
awful.
sounds terrible, right? And then obviously it's
sounds
hell.
terrible, too.
Yeah, which apparently most people go to hell in Norse mythology, but like
Yeah.
the other three options there, you're like, man, this doesn't sound that great. It's kind of the overwhelming majority of my options too. Like,
Well, I heard there's one that's like Die Hard on repeat. It's like,
oh yeah, I think that's just my cell in hell.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like them playing that over and over again. It's not even that it's just playing. It's that I've got some other motherfucker I don't know just breaking it down why it's a Christmas movie the entire time.
That's gonna be me. I'm gonna be
That's
your
what-
cellmate.
that's it.
You're just my
Well-
cellmate talking about like, see, like this right here is why, you know.
my name is Zeus,
No.
not Jesus. Don't like Puerto Rican.
Just all of the Die Hard movies.
It's
Yeah.
all of them. Get Samuel in there.
Pat's gonna be like, these fucking Valhalla motherfuckers are always coming to pick on me.
Just to fuck with. Yeah, that's
what?
Kirby's Valhalla. He's not in the bar fights. He's just checking in on me in hell to fucking like
Yeah.
just like torture me a little bit more about Die Hard.
It's like I brought you a special guest, Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Brought Bruce
Take
with
that
me.
and like 10 copies of the box set of Die Hard. Like,
All on VHS. You have to rewind them every
all on
time.
V- yeah, all
Oh.
on VHS. Yeah.
Ouch.
I'm trying to figure out what the ocean hell is called.
It's Realm of the Rand.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Where you just
yeah, I think so,
drown
yeah.
over
You
and
like
over
drown
again.
every day.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Sounds awful.
Yep, pass on that one.
You can't see the bottom of the ocean. It's just you feel things on your ankles.
Nope.
Okay, you're gonna give Kirby a panic attack over here, please.
Kirby or you?
Kirby, he's afraid of the ocean.
I am not an ocean person.
Bro,
Can't
I
do
went
it.
swimming with sharks without a cage. You think I'm afraid of the ocean? I was
I
literally in
think
the
you're
middle.
living your life a little too dangerously.
Playing it fast
You know
and
what?
loose,
I
baby.
say-
I'm in. You got
Yeah.
it.
Throw me in the ocean with some sharks? Down. There's worse things in there. I don't want to meet them. Since we were kind of like towing the line here, with everybody went right. Just make sure before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes I lose track of these things. Since we kind of towed the line between like religion and things like that, I kind of wanted to bring up this, segment here where it's like, after Norse mythology and some of the other gods like Greek, Egyptian, all of those transition to things like Christianity and other religions. Why do you think that is that they've kind of faded away from that type of mythology and those types of gods where it was like multiple versus now it's more centralized? We'll start with you, Gums, because I know you kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah, control. It's 100%, in my opinion, control based. Why else wouldn't you take a bunch of things that are all spread out and then you centralize them, right? You take the decentralized, you centralize them, you're able to control things that way, right? So it's all based on control. We're going to go conquer and control these people. We'll convert them to our religion. Our religion has these commandments. These commandments are our rules. Our rules are there to control. By the way, we will have these things where we have somebody write down what has happened and what these commandments are. And then along the way, we'll edit those, right? And then they'll start to fit our purviews of what we need them to be. So in my opinion, it's just a control thing, right? And it's, you're spreading religion to control. I mean, that's my best way to put it, because even if you were to say it's to like open them up to this religion so that they can see this religion, well, we know Christianity was one of the most violent religions ever. They've killed the most people ever, right? The Crusades, like they just murder people. They hang witches. They were hanging witches. They were just doing everything in the name of their God. And a benevolent God as such, you would kind of have to think, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that for a benevolent God, right? So these are just people being people. And that's my approach to it. That's what I've always thought it has been. And that's what I still think to this day. It's just a really big control. And we can also see that type of control when there was a lot of issues with all of the priests and such, when everybody knew all these things were happening and nobody said anything and these priests were being moved around. You want to talk about control and cover-ups. There's nothing deeper than that. You're supposed to separate religion and state, but I very much will tell you that religion controls state, right? In God we trust. Yeah. Just think about it. So that's my opinion on it. So
yeah, and I'm gonna kind of jump the line here a little bit too, just because I'm gonna I had the same real kind of point in terms of like the overarching like reasons behind it, but I think that there was a sentence in there that you said that really kind of distinguishes a major reason why these current religions really kind of stayed really in the forefront over a lot of what you would call polytheistic or what other major religions would call pagan religions, is the way that they were able to keep records and keep stories on paper and written word more efficiently than a lot of these other ones. Like obviously there are glyphs and sketches and stuff in some of these other religions, but not quite the same way that like things like the Old Testament, the Torah, the New Testament, or even in some like East Asian religions, like Buddhism, Hinduism, and whatnot, that kept a lot more better or more efficient, I should say, like written scripture and whatnot. So I think that does play a major factor in the way that, especially when we relate back to the subject of this podcast being Norse mythology, and Lauren kind of alluded to this earlier, about almost 100% of the time that those religions were being kind of worshipped, it was almost all spoken word. There was nothing really else kind of holding it together, and you kind of transition that into, either Judaism, Christianity, Islam, pretty much anything that we would consider a major religion in today's society. Almost all of them just have better records of written scripture and what their actual rules are. So it was much easier, I think, to enforce, spread, control, to Gums's point, and kind of really go to like snowball down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, to kind of go off of that, it's also, so I like the word control. I would also use the word fear. So it's a great way to get people, just the fear into people, to make them do the things that you need to do. And then also when you think of the religious takeover, there wasn't a lot of written words, but also they were burning a lot of the old religions. So they were getting rid of the religions they didn't want. So it wasn't that they didn't have as much record keeping, it's that what record keeping they did have was burned. That's and, true. A lot of...
It's destroyed.
And it's the whole spoken word, like you were mentioning. So your ancestors told your parents, who told you, like, it's a big telephone. It's a big game of telephone. So a lot of it gets, dropped off. And if you don't have, the wise men in the tribe telling the story and being the document keeper, a lot of it got lost. So I do feel like a lot of religions did get lost because of the religious takeover, because things were destroyed. And if you are, I don't know, if you're like the bully, like you're the one doing all the destroying, obviously you'd have the best record keeping because no one is picking on the big bully.
Yeah.
So I do feel that's kind of, why. Yeah. I
want to fishtail. No, you're spot on. Like, because that was something I wanted to mention is that, like, understand these folks were just as smart then as they are now. Then one of the number one things you do to conquer somebody is you first find out who's going to be a thorn in your side, you crush them, and then you start taking away all the things they have that makes them them. So it's very well documented. That's how you take over something. And so they started burning. I mean, Norse mythology was a runic language. Therefore, it was a written language. They had it. What happened to it? Why can people not understand it? It's because they murdered everybody that knew about it and they burned everything that didn't. Now, I will say the other side of, I'll say the other side of fear, though, is hope. So it's two sides of the same coin. Not only do they rule with rules and commandments and use fear like burning in hell, but they also try to give you answers to why things are the way they are and give you hope. So if you hold on to hope, it is the greatest drug of all time if you are down and out. It'll give you something to have and hold on to when you have nothing else. And there's no stronger pull than that. And that's the best thing they can control is your hope. So something to think about.
And there are definitely a lot of like timestamps too throughout history. Obviously speaking more probably towards Christianity during like the Dark Ages and stuff like that, where you saw a lot of people preying on, the mindset of people that were really down on their luck. You talk about things like in eras like the Black Plague and just like rampant disease and war and everything like that, where you're going into these villages of people who are just your lives are totally ravaged and whatnot. It's very easy to come in and say, hey, take this glimmer of hope, come follow us, your life's going to be great, and so that was obviously a much more prominent figure, I'd say, in the rise of Christianity, but obviously exists in most modern religions that have come into major sittings of power.
Like taking advantage of their vulnerability, like they're down on their luck, they're looking for any luck out, like anything to give them the hope to go on. They're like, oh, well, if you follow our religion, you have this afterlife, you have all these promises, you just have to do what we say.
Shit, man, I live in Vegas. You see some dudes down on their luck at a roulette table, you see some people do some crazy fucking shit. You want to tell me to compare that to someone who's like dealing with Black Plague and rats in fucking east of France? Like,
I'll tell you what, religion's always been really good at a term that's called clock sitting. So that just means like, when they say, hey, God will provide, or our gods will provide, or something like that. Well, what are they providing, right? Like a way out. Let's just say like the Black Plague will be lessened, right? Like we will provide this. All you have to do is pray. Well, it's called clock sitting because at 2:00, everything is bad. And you're telling me one thing, that God will provide. Then it ticks all the way to 6:00. And finally, the Black Plague is over. And you come back and say, see, I told you. At 6, it's 6:00 now. And you're like, I told you it would provide. And it's like, yo, man, there was a whole 4-hour span of nothingness and you being wrong. You can't be right at 6:00, right? You can't. It's called clock sitting. You just sit on the clock until eventually you're right. And that's for multiple religions. Now, we're not like bashing Christianity here. We're giving you cold hard facts, and other religions have done this too. So they're not alone in it. They were just experts at it.
Yeah.
So
probably the most organized version of it. Yeah, I'd say.
Kirby?
Sorry, I'm distracted by a cat.
It's okay.
Hi, bro.
I'm distracted by Gums' cute puppy in the background.
I know, really.
That's Egyptians right there. Them cats, man.
Well, I think you guys really kind of, touched on all of the points that I was going to bring up. With kind of like the aggressive expansion of Christianity and stuff. You had one central religion being spread through either like just force, like our coerce religion, like compliance with it, or just killed people that wouldn't comply with what you wanted them to. That along with written word really allowed there to be like this dominant force where like other religions that could be, you know, kind of snuffed out, either if it was like, if it didn't have any sort of record keeping or central like holy book, or, you know, it was easy to like just dispose of, you know, the people that were telling these stories and writing down these stories, like that really contributed to, you know, what we're seeing today actually is, you know, Christianity is still, I think, the largest recognized religion in the world. So it was just a forced expansion and a suppression of anything that doesn't really fall under their control.
Yeah, you guys all pretty much hit the nail on the head. There isn't much for me to say. I do want to point out the fact though that it is crazy to think that you know, if all they had was a great note taker, you know, and that passed along, we might still have some of these, because it is crazy to see over the years how many different religions have like spun out. Obviously, you have like Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism. There's so many different religions now out there, and there continues to be new ones discovered all the time. So it is pretty interesting just to see how some of that stuff kind of fizzled out, by creating kind of like what you guys said, having like a forceful, you know, I don't know the right word to say here, but having that like that one ideal that everybody can look up to and making that the religion for the area, kind of just really went a long way, and it continues on.
I do also think that it's more of like, if there's 20 people in the room and 18 of them believe one thing, 2 of them don't, like, it's kind of, well, I'm just going to go with them. Like, so it is more of like wanting to belong to something. So a lot of people go into religion for the wrong reasons, but I don't know if that's right or wrong, but they go into it for belonging. So when you have these religions that aren't as popular, they do kind of fizzle away, because you have this big, massive religion that you have so many places to worship, there's so many scriptures, there's so much information about that particular one, that's what you kind of gravitate towards, because there's more knowledge on that particular one. But then going back to what we were saying before about a lot of the information kind of being destroyed, you know, if it's just a couple people that kept the stories and they hid them away when all this stuff was happening, you know, they kind of stuck them away, and then that's where we get, you know, all the knowledge that we have, because there obviously was someone who fought against being pushed.
Yeah,
True.
It is kind of crazy that, you know, one last thing that you guys, pretty much everybody said, control is the number one thing, and it's kind of crazy to think that, like, you know, with religion, Christianity, different things, you know, shifting from that multiple God to one person, it's kind of like us having a president, you know? We have that one force who basically runs the entire country. Like, you know, seeing that shift like that, that's a great example of that.
Oh, yes.
Well,
to go off of that, I was just going to say, just really quick, religion and politics, same thing, control and fear.
So what I was gonna say is, yeah, around that same time too, even in some polytheistic you know, areas, it was, I mean, the Italians and the Greeks are really responsible for a lot of what we know about republics and democracies, right? So they were pretty and then moving on, you know, you would eventually see a monarchy in the UK and in a lot of other European nations and whatnot that were kind of, especially once kind of Christianity kind of swept through Europe, that was kind of a pretty popular thing to see. It was a monarchy in most of those countries. So they did, and kind of going off of Lauren's point there, the timing of it actually was almost hand in hand relative to what you see in terms of like current political systems and whatnot. You saw most of those countries go to either some kind of monarchy or a republic of some kind that was usually dominated by one overwhelming person.
I will say, going off of that, just being the one woman in the room, talking about Nordic and different religions, you know, it's a lot prominent of equality. I know Seth brought that up, where there's a lot of women that were worshipped, and I feel like there's a lot of like Catholic and Christians where it's more of like the men, like you serve your men, and it's all about the men, and there's not a lot of representation of women in religion when it comes to stuff like that. So I think, you know, the Nordic, it's also more of a control thing, like, oh, don't listen to her, she's a housewife, like, don't worship her, she needs to provide me with children so I can go off and fight the war. I need 15 kids because 3 will live.
If anybody reads the Bible, there's a lot of shit in there that's suspect. There's a lot of stuff in there that's suspect.
Old and New Testament for that matter. You read a lot of stuff in there and you're like, okay, there's a lot of shit going on in here that you're like, I don't know how I feel
it's
about
control,
this.
right? So you brought up a really good point. Like you had Greek and Roman gods, but you had monarchies that came up in democracy republic, right? So what I find that's so grand is that you could rule with a polytheistic ruling and then also have a democracy republic. It was possible. It was grand. But they said, hey, man, why don't we not only control their physical being, the republic, but also control their spiritual being, which would then be religion. And we'll make it mono for both. And once I have, what does Christians always talk about? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?
Yep.
Well, there you go. I've got your physical, I've got your spiritual, and then I also have your mind. So I mean, these guys were next level. This was no coincidence that this is what happened here. No coincidence at all, because we have records and we know that other things could have existed just as grand. And you guys were talking about like America. Like, look what we have America. Isn't America built off Christianity? Don't we act just like Christianity? We're like, hey, you're not listening to us. We're going to fuck you up and we're going to convert you. Is that not what we do? So we haven't really gotten rid of those traditions, so to speak. So
No.
Yeah, it was like a lot of America was built off of, like, at the time it was like deism and whatnot, which was just a subsect of Christianity, but in and of itself having a lot of the same ideals. They just didn't believe really in divine intervention was the only thing in there. But like the influences of the church, it was like that and Protestantism were kind of usually the two things that like kind of came over that were pretty prevalent early on.
All I know is all this talk of like republics and democracies. I'm just ready for my first galactic empire.
Yep.
you would be.
That would be. I'm for Darth Vader, dude. The Jedi were a bunch of assholes.
They are weak as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. We need somebody stronger than them.
Exactly.
Sure.
Anakin was right.
Anakin was right.
I was gonna say Anakin.
All I know,
Thanos was right.
all I know is when a Padawan starts asking questions and stops listening to you, immediately murder them. I mean, every video I've seen of a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master dies because his Padawan ain't fucking listening. Hey, what did you do to my family? It doesn't matter. I need this thing that's going to save the world. Just hand it to me and then I'll tell you about your family.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you this until you tell me about my family. Please give it to me. Here comes the Sith. Slice. By the way, if you want to come to the dark side, come roll with me later. Like that's like every single story. I'm just like, what's
half
going
off tacos on Tuesday. It's a great time over here. I know I just killed your best friend. So come kick it on this
So
side.
there's an opening.
I took you away from your mother. I'm sorry, but it's for the greater good of the galaxy.
It's every time. It's like the Jedi were like these are the people that never wanted to change, never wanted to do it, and so they got fucked up by the millennials. It's like the millennials versus the generation above. It's just like the fight. That's the battle. Just whenever the millennial starts asking questions, just chop his head off, man.
Christianity versus everyone. And
all under the rug. Just
right. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this podcast. There's a lot that we discussed today. And stay tuned for a future Star Wars episode because that is coming. And the next episode, we're going to be talking about Batman, which I'm personally hyped on because the new movie's coming out. So,
Bat Boy.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Gum, send us off, baby.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Be sure to email rollingcreditspodcast@gmail.com on a religion we can create. But remember, step 1 is call it a cult. The Nordic people used to say, where wolf's ears are, wolf's teeth are near. Let's keep it rolling.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Rolling Credits Podcast. Be sure to give us a listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Google Play, or a full video recording on our YouTube page. And be sure to check us out on our social medias at Rolling Credits Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one.